English translation. 500-second contact. Saturday, 4th of September 2010. 16:04 hours.
So we are back here after the proofreading, whereby I want to ask you the question about the omission points, which I already sent you last night via Njana, so that you could clarify the matter with your script and language experts. As you told me when you started the correction work, you were able to ask and give me an answer. Our spelling according to Duden says the following with regard to the omission points. Always put omission points in quotations and square brackets. And there I have another definition, which explains. The ellipsis points are 3 directly consecutive points, which indicate that at this point, a word, part of a word, or sentence is omitted.
You already had this explained to me last night about Njana, so I inquired with our scriptural and linguistic scholars about the state of correctness or falsity. Our high scientists explained clearly and without doubt that according to Duden, the quotation you quoted was not correct, but just wrong. Basically, it should be noted that in the German written language there are often other factors to be considered and correct than the terrestrial linguists and scribes of the German language wrongly consider it correct. So if you use the German way of writing and speaking extensively, as you learned it from my father Svath, then you are acting correctly. My father also belonged to the committee of our writers and linguists, and instructed you in the proper way. And in answer to your question, our scientists explained to me that if 3 dots are placed before a beginning sentence, this means that at least one sentence or even several sentences are placed before it, which are not mentioned. But if an endpoint occurs after a finished sentence, after which another 3 dots are set, this means that at least one sentence or even several of them follow, but are not mentioned. But if 3 dots before or after a finished sentence are put in square brackets, then this means that what is put in such square brackets is no longer related to the content of the following or preceding sentence, but is completely excluded. Square brackets are a compulsory separation from the actual text and subject. So if square brackets are used in this sense, then they mean that the sentence before or after the sentence falls away from the given theme and no longer has any connection with the actual sentence value. And consequently, a section would have to be inserted before or after the sentence content, by which a strict separation is made. In other words, a square bracket is not only a paragraph, respectively a break in the continuous text, after which a new line is started, but a square bracket necessarily determines a new paragraph. To start a new paragraph in a running text, however, contradicts all reason. Square brackets, respectively, brackets may only be used as separate brackets within explanations set in normal brackets, in order to further indicate separately bracketed information, especially in normal brackets.
This is a straight answer. And what I learned from your father Svath regarding the German language is much more valuable to me than all the nonsense created by the earthly creators of the German language, who increasingly distort both the language itself and the written language. The Duden also belongs to this.
Our linguists and scriptural scholars who deal with the German language consider the German falsification of language and script to be childish nonsense. And since you are talking about the German spelling, especially with regard to the Duden, I call various statements and explanations therein Dudian nonsense. I can do this with a clear conscience, because according to my own study of German, which I have been studying for a great number of years now, I now have much better and more extensive knowledge than the German scholars on earth.
There is no doubt about it. But there is one more question about the whole thing. What is the situation when a sentence is written that is not yet finished, and therefore simply 3 points are added?
In this case, 3 points mean that a sentence is not finished, but the rest is only thought.
But one more question. The Playaran names, terms, and words may only be pronounced in the form as they are given by the Playaran language, and also in the German language in the Playaran way. If this is contravened, and if the Playaran names, terms, and words are pronounced in a way other than the Playaran way, then evil falsifications, or simply meaningless and senseless things will result. This is clear why Playaran names, terms, and words, etc. cannot and must not be translated into other languages. However, in the German and Swiss German languages alone, it is possible to maintain the Playaran way of pronouncing names, terms, and words, etc., because these languages originate from the original language Arjan and have the same values all around. Now the question arose, because no further letters may be added to any name, term, or word of Playaran origin, as is the case when, for example, Semjases or Quetzals or Paz explanations are spoken of. There is then an additional small s appended. Your father Svath has already explained to me that this is correct, because nothing is distorted by the small s, because it is not a change of the name, but only a definition of the person to whom, for example, an execution, explanation, or matter is relevant. In doing so, he said clearly and unambiguously, there is not a change of name, concept, or word in relation to their actual value.
This is absolutely correct and therefore does not need any further explanation.
This is actually all I wanted to talk to you about.
Then I can go my way again. But next Monday afternoon I will come back here so that we can continue to work together with the level of Arahat Athersata on the correction and completion of the Talmud Emmanuel. Goodbye, Edward, dear friend.